everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial from the Kroot Hunting Pack box set, otherwise known as the Tau Empire Army set, that was sent to me early by Games Workshop to build up and paint for all of you. And of course we are here with the Krootox Rampagers, that's the proper name. Failing already. Fail upwards though, which is what we intend to do with this paint job. It's going to be fun, it's going to look great. They are primed in Wraithbone, and the colour we're going to be using first is Agrax Earthshade. And we're going to be applying this over, well, quite a select area. So we're going to be applying this just here, over the top of what will be the kind of softer inner tummy colour. I'm going to apply this all over the neck, all the way around, so as not to kind of end up with a nasty drying line. We finish that section like so, and then we're going to move up onto the head, where we're going to apply this like so up to the first of that kind of lower beak crenellations. I'm not even sure if that's the correct word, but what we are going to do is we're going to apply this over the top of the entirety of the top part of the beak. I'm going to apply this over the top of the head as well, like so. Bring this all the way over. Like that. Bring it down the other side of the face. Make sure you get this little area just in there. Like that. And there's these little kind of, well, it's their ears basically. You always just want to be careful to make sure you've definitely got it in there, because it's one of those areas where you can look back at it and the paint has just created a bubble over the top of it, and it's not actually painted it in. So once you've got that bit done, we're then going to apply this Agrax Earthshade over the rest of the Krootox's tummy. Just like that. So with all that Agrax Earthshade applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Ratling Grime, and we're going to apply this over the top of the rest of the Krootox's skin. Now it is going to be a hard transition at this point. We're not going to be doing any kind of blending or anything like that. Don't worry. It'll all be okay. So, it's still drying at the moment, but we will be bringing this down over the top of the head, around the eyes, kind of the forehead of it. But because it's still drying, we're not going to go in there just yet. We're just going to move on to the next part of the model, which is this shoulder. So once all that Ratling Grime is dry, what we're going to do is we're going to take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Black Templar and Lahmian Medium. And we're going to apply this over the top of all of that Ratling Grime. One thing to point out here though, is once you come to the top of the head, we want to apply this over this section, like so. Wash the brush, touch off the water, and then just smooth out the transition. So we're keeping some of that Ratling Grime there, like so. Once all that Black Templar and Lahmian Medium mix is all applied, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Cygor Brown and we're going to apply this over top of pretty much all of the hard leather. The only thing we're not going to do is the tiny little straps around his, well, hands. With all that Cygor Brown applied, we're then going to take Aggaros Dunes. We're now going to apply this over the top of the rest of the beak. And we're going to now overlap it where we did that Agrax Earthshade to begin with. Which is going to create a minor tonal difference. Whilst we're waiting for that Aggaros Dunes to dry, we're going to take some Gore-Grunta Fur. I'm going to apply 2 coats of this to the quills. And the Krootox. We're still waiting for that first coat of Gore-Grunta Fur to dry, but in the interest of saving some time, we're going to take some Carroburg Crimson. We're going to use this to do 2 things. The first is to paint the inside of the mouth. Like so. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to use this to add a little bit of a transition on the tummy. So we're going to apply the Carroburg Crimson like this. I'm then going to wash the brush, touch off the water, and then just along this muscle we're just going to wick off most of it, so it gives us that little blended transition. And then here along the neck we can do the same thing. We now have our second coat of Gore-Grunta Fur applied, so what we're going to do is we're going to take some Agrax Earthshade now, and we're going to use this to shade all of the beak, because the Aggaros Dunes is now dry as well. And with that now done, we take some Black Legion and we apply this over top of these little leather straps. So with that Black Legion all applied, we're now going to add a shade. I'm going to add this over almost all of the model. Not quite though. So we're going to actually add some Reikland Fleshshade. I'm going to apply this over top of the skin of the Krootox, the dark skin, like so. And we're going to apply this over top of all of the Cygor Brown as well. This might not make a whole lot of sense, but when it dries, it will. So with all that Reikland Fleshshade now applied, what we're going to do is move on to the rider rather than doing any of the metallics just yet. And well, we're going to start with the skin on our Kroot rider. So the colour we're going to be using first is some Drakenhof Nightshade. And we're going to be applying this over the top of all of the flesh. So with that Drakenhof Nightshade applied, we're then going to take some Cygor Brown. And we're going to use this over the top of all of the kind of straps. And large leather harnesses. Things like that. With all that Cygor Brown applied, we're then going to take Black Legion. And we're going to apply this over top of the shafts of the spears, the sheath of the knife, and the quiver. With that Black Legion applied, we're then going to take some Gore-Grunta Fur. And we're going to use this over the top of the quills, and over the top of any remaining kind of leather straps and stuff like that. So like bits of twine and stuff around the spearheads. So with that now done, we're going to take some Skeleton Horde. I'm going to use this over the top of his tummy. Normally we would use something like Seraphim Sepia here, but because it's such a small amount, let's use a slightly stronger Skeleton Horde. Just to pick that out, like that. See, it's only that little corner. So with that all done, we're now going to work on the metallics. So we're going to take some thinned down Iron Warriors. I'm going to apply this over the top of all the details that we want to be silver. So this is going to include any armor, belt buckles, weapons, etc. It's almost all the remaining details, however there are a couple that are not going to be silver, such as any areas of jewellery. So all that Iron Warriors applied, I'm then going to take some thinned down Retributor Armour. I'm going to use this to paint in all of the remaining sort of jewellery. stuff like that. So with that done, we're now going to add some shades, and the first of these is going to be some Poxwalker. I'm going to apply this over the top of all of the skin, excluding, of course, the belly. With all that Poxwalker applied, we're then going to take some Reikland Fleshshade. I'm going to use this to shade all of the Cygor Brown and the gold. And with that Reikland Fleshshade applied, we're then going to take some Nuln Oil. I'm going to use this to shade all the silver. And so with that done, there's only one thing left to do, which is to take a tiny amount of black Templar. I'm going to use this over the top of the bottom of the rider's beak, up to around about there. Then going to wash the brush, touch off the water, then just give it a quick little blend out onto the rest of the chin. I'm going to do this on both sides. But what we're also going to do with the black Templar is we're going to use this to paint in the fingernails and the claws of the rider. So with those shades applied, our Krootox Rampager is now what I would call a Warhipster battle ready, and it's looking pretty good. However, we're not going to leave it there. I'm going to take it to the next level. I'm going to do this by adding some highlights. Now, the first of these is going to be some thinned down Stormvermin Fur. I'm going to be using this to highlight the Krootox's flesh. So with all that Stormvermin Fur applied, we're then going to take a tiny amount of Yriel Yellow. I'm going to apply this over the top of the eyes of the Krootox and the rider. With that Yriel Yellow applied, what we're then going to do is take some thinned down Karak Stone. I'm going to use this to do a few different things. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to use this to highlight the beaks. I say beaks, there's only one beak that we're highlighting here. It's the one of the Krootox. And we're going to do both sections, so this slightly browner one and the slightly yellower one. also going to do with this, I'm going to use this to highlight the pink sections of skin, as well as add some spot highlights around the face. So with all that Karak Stone applied, we're then going to take a tiny little bit of some thinned down Screaming Skull. I'm going to use this to add some little spot highlights to the beaks. Like that. I'm going to use this to highlight the paler parts of the chest. So with that Screaming Skull all done, it's now time to take some thinned down Night Quester flesh. I'm going to use this to now highlight all of the kind of dark brown that we originally did with Cygor Brown. So with that all done, it's now time to take some thinned down Deathclaw Brown. I'm going to use this to highlight all of the quills across both Rider and Krootox. So with that Deathclaw Brown applied, what we're then going to do is take some thinned down Dawnstone. I'm going to use this to highlight any black details. So we've got the beak of the rider, for example. So with that then done, I'm going to take some thinned down Deepkin Flesh. I'm going to use this to highlight the skin of our rider. So with all that Deepkin Flesh applied, we're now going to highlight the metallics. The colour we're going to be using first is some thinned down Ironbreaker. I'm going to use this to highlight all the silver. With all that Ironbreaker applied, we then want to take some thinned down Liberator Gold. We want to use this to highlight the gold. With that done, we actually forgot to do this earlier. What we're going to do is we're going to take some Karak Stone. I'm going to use this to pick out the quills on the arms and legs of the Cygor, as well as the little talons and fingernails on the Cygor. So with that Karak Stone applied, there's only one thing left to do, which is to take some Akhelian Green. I'm going to use this to pick out some of this jewellery. Just to break up the gold just a little bit. And with their bases complete, thus marks, for now, the end of our Kroot Hunting Pack coverage. I really enjoyed painting these guys. I think they look wonderful. It's nice to have like almost a really specialized combat unit for the Tau. Are they good? Well, time will tell. But they look really great, and they're a brilliant addition to the Kroot range, and I can't wait to get my hands on the rest of the Kroot now. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you'd like to support me further, you absolutely can do so by heading to patreon.com/warhipster, just like all of these wonderful, amazing people have done. And alternatively, you could become a YouTube channel member by clicking on the join button below, exactly like these fabulous folks have done, scrolling up on the screen before you. There are so many of you out there that it really takes my breath away, and I cannot thank you enough for everything you do, as without you I wouldn't be able to keep making these Contrast Plus videos. And if you really like this video and you want to send me a little thanks, just click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.